What's going on, y'all? It's TG3 here with Biz Growth Collective, bringing to you another business spotlight out here in Florida, Texas. Florida, United States. But yeah, today we're here with Rachel Lynch. She's doing big things in business out there in Florida. So why don't we take a second just to kind of introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Tillman. It's awesome to connect with you on here. I've always thought so much about you and your family and everything that you do for your kids and who you are as a person. A little bit about me. I'm here in Palm Beach, Florida. For the last 5 years, I've worked in the marketing and sales space. And then this last year, like in a consulting capacity. And then this last year, I focused to switch more on the financial side of business, helping people with both their personal and business finances. Things like tax saving strategies, business structure, both offensive and defensive planning. So setting up for retirement, getting things set up for investments. So yeah, it's been really fun. I've always loved helping business owners, and it's been really exciting helping like sink my teeth into like the nitty gritty of actually, how much money people are making, how much they're putting aside, and being able to help people, have a conversation with people to be able to help them set up for their future so that they're not worried when they go to bed at night. I think that's huge because I've been there. I've been worried, and somebody thought enough of me to have this conversation with me and said, hey, what do you have set up? If something were to happen to you, if you weren't able to work, how would you pay your bills? And let's fast forward 30, 40, 50 years down the road. Do you want to be working forever, or do you want to have something in place so that eventually, if you don't want to work, you don't have to? So those are the kind of things, those are the conversations that I have with my clients here in Florida and all across the country.
Mm, so well said. And I was just talking to a plumber this morning about he's like about to be 50 something years old, and that was his biggest thing is like he ended up getting hurt, and he's just been doing backbreaking work since he was 18, now 50.
Yeah.
But even with that being said, like what's been the biggest gap you've seen where, people have like that aha moment of working with small business owners? What's been the biggest gap you've seen like over so many different businesses that they're just not protected from an offensive or defensive standpoint?
I think as a business owner, protecting yourself is number 11 on a list of 1 to 10 of what to do every day.
Mm,
Right. So it's just like as business owners, we wear so many hats, and there's so many things that we have to do: our calendar, our appointments, collecting money, setting next appointments, getting referrals, getting in front of your customers. And we just get so focused on generating revenue. Our mind is not focused on, once we have that revenue, what are we doing with it? Are we putting it in places that it's going to grow? Are we utilizing compound interest, the eighth wonder of the world? And if something were to happen to us, what safeguards do we have in place? Because, like, I don't know if you've ever been asked this question before, Tillman, and most people don't know it, but do you know what your number one asset in this life is?
my time, my energy.
100%. You are your absolute number one asset. So it's not your house, it's not your business, it's you. Because if you built a business, guess what? You can build another business. Your whole life isn't in this business. It's you. You're your biggest asset, and you always will be. So we need to protect you. If you weren't able to work, or if something were to happen to you, is your family going to be provided for? Will your business be able to continue to run? So those are the type of safeguards that we need to get in place for our small business owners. And that's something that small business owners, it's not a daily thought in their head that, hey, if I couldn't work next year, how would the rent get paid? How would the office get paid? How would the car payments get paid? How would the health insurance get paid? How would the electricity and the phone bill and the Wi-Fi, how would these things get paid? It's just not on our radar.
Mm-hmm.
So that is why I am pretty adamant about getting in front of business owners and having this conversation. And it's not necessarily a conversation that people want to have, because if they don't have things in place, it kind of might put like a spotlight on how vulnerable their businesses really are and how vulnerable their finances are. But let me tell you, once you have the conversation, it's like a burden is lifted off your shoulders. And you go, wow, I can go out here and, like really anything could happen, which it won't, but anything could happen and I'm going to be okay. So I'm a really big believer, and Tillman, you know this with our background. We're both really big believers on speaking what we want and manifesting what we want and creating the reality that we want to live for ourselves. And in my mind, when I don't have a protection, I'm kind of go, oh, well, what if that would have happened? And it kind of comes to mind more often than if when I think, oh, if that would happen, I'm good. I'm able to put that fear aside and not think about it anymore because I know I'm good. Versus like having it like just hanging out there in the ether, like, well, what if? So yeah, let's get protected. Let's have everything set up so that in 30 years from now, how much money you're going to have in the bank, how many millions you're going to have in the bank, how much money you're going to be able to withdraw monthly, even if you never were to take in a new paycheck again. If you were never to make more revenue, you are getting paid from the revenue that you put aside today and grew for you for the last 20, 30 years.
Why do you think it is that so many people are afraid to have that conversation as business owners?
I think we're scared that it's going to cost more money than it actually costs. At least that was my belief. I thought I was going to need, thousands of dollars a month to put aside in order to save for retirement. And that's just a false belief that we tell ourselves to procrastinate. At least in my case, it was. Until you sit down and have the conversation and actually look like, oh, okay, so this is how much I make. And this is how much expenses I have, which means I have this much left over every month. Let's take a fraction of that and let's put that aside. If it doesn't work for you and you can afford it, guess what? You're not going to do it. So therefore, that's not going to work for you, right? So everybody has a completely unique situation that needs a completely custom plan. And that's what we do. Everybody gets their own plan. It's not like a one size fits all. It's not a cookie cutter plan. It's, this is me. This is my situation. These are my goals and how many kids I have. This is what I make. This is how much goes out. And this is how much I want to have by the age 60, by age 65. I would like to be able to, have X amount of dollars every single month so that if I don't want to work at age 70, I don't have to work. It's like, I get sad if I see somebody like in their 70s working at Walmart.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
And some people don't have kids and some people don't want to be a burden on their kids. I know I don't. I want to set my daughter up, which is something else that we talk a lot about. There are ways that we can set our kids up so by the time that they're in their 20s and they're in their 30s, they have a nest egg already that they could do something with, whether that's buy a house, buy a car, pay for education, or have a really big step up in already planning for their own retirement. So, and it's very, very inexpensive when we're talking about starting kids with this, because it's all of this is based on your age. So the sooner you get going on this, the better it's going to be. In the future, the better position you'll be in, the sooner you start. So I don't know about you, but procrastination is something that I've struggled with my whole life. And certainly doing things like planning for the future, right? I always think, oh, there's time next year. I'll be in a better situation next year. My business is going to take off. I'm going to be making more next year. But every year that we put it off is a year that we're losing on the dividends, on the interest that we could be making and providing for our family. So even if we just start super, super small, it's like, how do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Right? Exactly. We start at the tail. So, we just start, it's just about starting. That's the number one thing. It's having a conversation. And the other thing is, Tillman, just because we have a conversation doesn't mean that we need to pull a trigger. But you know what it does is it at least gives you that information
Facts.
where you can start, your wheels can start turning, and you can start thinking, is this something that's really important to me? Is this a priority that's important to me? If something were to happen to me, do I want my family to be in the same position that they're in right now? Or do I want them to not have to worry about money?
Hmm.
Because I mean, just to be a little bit vulnerable with you right now and just be honest, when I'm the oldest of eight, both my parents were teachers. And at 18 years old, my dad passed away. My mom homeschooled all of us. So I was the oldest at 18. My youngest brother was 2. And my dad left us life insurance. And because of that life insurance, my mom did not have to sell her house. My mom was able to continue to homeschool all of us. She didn't have to go get a full-time job. And she's still in that house today, and she's still raising my younger brother and sister today in that house. She was able to help me and my sister in college. She was able to buy a condo for us in Gainesville, where we attend the University of Florida. Now my brother number 6, he's going to school there, and he's living in that condo. And it's been an amazing, rental and income property for her. And so to this day, 15 years later, my dad continues to provide for my family, even though he's no longer here. And if we want to get biblical with it, the Bible says a good man will leave an inheritance for his family, for his children and his children's children. So this is a responsibility that we have, as godly people, to provide and protect for our family and for our future generations.
Absolutely.
So yeah, this is something that is that's very important to me, and I really do think it should be important to everybody. Certainly, if we have children, and or if we have parents that are going to depend on us.
Hmm.
So I just really appreciate you having this conversation with me, because it's again, it's not something that people are thinking about on a daily basis. I understand we've got things to do. We got kids to feed and bills to pay, and we've got, appointments that are waiting for us. So I completely understand. And I'm just always excited to talk to somebody who is thinking about the future and who does want to put a plan in place. At least to have their ear and kind of just at least be planting those seeds, because nothing needs to happen today, but something should happen at some.
Yep. Yep. I agree. It's funny you said that, because I was just about to ask about that, about an impactful story. But that condo being in your family's life for that long, to where your siblings can actually take advantage of it, is just, it's monumental. You know what I mean? So that's powerful stuff. I know we gotta press for time, but tell people like where they can find you. I know for a fact you're already a preferred vendor at Bizgrowth Collective. So anybody out there, y'all can go to bizgrowthcollective.com and reach out to Rachel through the platform, or any other way. But how can people find you if they want to get a hold of you and at least start having a conversation around how they can be protected?
Absolutely. So on Instagram, I'm Rachel. So it's RACHE Lynch, LYNCH. So there's just one L. I don't know if that's kind of confusing, but it's Rachie.Lynch, basically. And then I'm also on LinkedIn. You can find me on Facebook. I work with the McKernan Financial Group here in Palm Beach, but we're a subsidiary of Northwestern. So, which is the longest, oldest life insurance and investment company in the country. 160 years. We actually paid out policies on victims of the Titanic, if you can believe it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me on Facebook. There's me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Instagram. Any of your major platforms, and then you can also send me an email. It's rachel.lynch@nm.com.
Yeah. So,
And
just coming from somebody who is I think that was a great, positive impact story, just coming from somebody who, like I said, has lost their mom 3 years ago. As the son, you go through something that you just kind of wake up and say, I definitely want to put my kids in a different position when I'm no longer here. And I know, like, prior to that, Kobe Bryant had passed away, and it was just like this huge shock
Yeah.
for so many people. It was for me too. I cried, actually. I'm a huge,
Yeah.
huge, huge basketball fan. So when that happened, I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow, like, really, like, there's nobody that's untouchable. But when my mom passed,
Mm.
I was like, yo, this is my personal superhero. Like, forget about Kobe, but the aftermath of it, being called by different creditors, you're still trying to go through the grieving process. You're still trying to take care of the kids. You're still going through this whole process. Like, that would have made it so much easier. You're still trying to plan the homecoming or the funeral or whatever people call it nowadays. We call it a homecoming. So you're still trying to plan that, trying to get all the invitations out. She's the oldest of nine. She was the oldest of nine. So that's a lot of people. I have like at
Yeah.
least 1,000 cousins probably. But
Whoa.
so yeah, so coming from it, like, that's the positive side, from somebody that experienced it from the child's point of view. That's what kind of woke me up to be like, all right, I've seen the aftermath of what this could look like when these things are not in place. So I
Yeah.
urge you to reach out to Rachel and at least start the conversation with her, because at the end of the day, like, even if you don't have children, you have someone as a business owner that you care about, right? And how much better are you going to sleep? Forget about, well, no, don't forget about it. Yeah, the 20, 30 years from now is great, but how much better are you going to sleep right now, knowing that anything can happen on the highway and you're covered, knowing that anything can happen. It don't even have to be something that's at your own fault. How many times do we look at the news and see people that die or pass away because of something that didn't even have nothing to do with them? So, I mean, it's just a conversation that needs to be had at the end of the day. And I know it's uncomfortable, but sometimes some of the best things in life are on the other side of uncomfortable. So,
And you know what? 99% of people are going to get to retirement and are going to live a long, healthy, vibrant life full of purpose and love. And they're going to, they're going to have an amazing life. Even when you get there, one day we all will make it to our true home. And whenever that day does come for us, to be able to leave our family in a better financial position is a blessing. That's a blessing.
facts.
And the younger that we do it, the better it ends up being for them and for us financially. So I think that's the goal. The goal is to live to 100 years old and leave your family with millions of dollars that barely cost you anything to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just skip out on Starbucks for 2 days. You'll be all right. You know what
I
I mean?
mean, you're not kidding.
It's
You're,
really
you're
like that
not
simple.
kidding.
You know what I mean?
It literally is. And that's the other thing, Tillman, is that this stuff is so much more affordable, certainly the younger that you do it. But even I have clients, in their 50s and 60s who are doing this, and, it can still be 100% doable. So I'm excited to have the conversation with people. I honestly thank God for bringing this industry into my life, because I always enjoyed helping business owners. And it's not just for business owners. Anybody who works, a salary job, a W-2, has the option to have these same kind of benefits put in place. And I'm just very grateful to be able to have this conversation with people, because at the end of the day, when I work with a client, it helps me a little, but it helps them a ton. It really does. It really can be absolutely life changing, and it will be.
I know the feeling. Well, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this spotlight with Biz Growth Collective. This will be pushed out on all podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. It'll be on YouTube, and definitely you can catch it on the bizgrowthcollective.com. So be sure to check that out. We're going to be having more spotlights coming soon. I'm your host, TG3. If you want to be spotlighted on this, definitely reach out to us so we can walk you through the next steps on how we can spotlight your business. And definitely reach out to Rachel ASAP to start having that conversation. She's in Florida. She's doing big things, always have, and out here protecting business owners, small, medium, enterprise. I don't care how big your business is. You need to be protected. That's the bottom line. So if you haven't had that conversation, at least have that conversation and reach out to her ASAP so you can get that going. And we've enjoyed our time today. Hope you guys got something out of it, and we'll see you on the next one.
All right. Appreciate you, Tillman. Talk to you
All right,
soon.
talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.